A massive creature slithers through the Amazon. In New Mexico, something humanoid but not quite human is caught on camera creeping around at night. This next clip is one of those "what the hell am I looking at" moments. It was filmed in Santa Fe, New Mexico sometime last summer, but that's about all we know. I really don't know how to explain what this thing is. Doesn't appear to be fully human, but I mean, maybe it is, I don't know. Now, New Mexico is no stranger to strange sightings. It's got a long history of chupacabra reports, the goat-sucking cryptid that's said to drain livestock. Sightings of these creatures pop up all across the Southwest, into Mexico, and even parts of South America. So naturally, people are wondering if this thing caught on camera could be a chupacabra. Others think it looks like a skinwalker caught mid-transformation. Whatever it is though, I can say for sure that I don't like it, and if I were living out there in Santa Fe and saw something like this slinking around, I'd be rethinking my zip code real fast. But what do you think? Real cryptid, elaborate hoax? Let us know down below. This next clip comes from deep in the Amazon rainforest, and if you're one of those people who roll their eyes at the idea of 50-foot snakes, this might give you second thoughts. Now, at first it looks like just another shot of something slithering through murky water, nothing too out of the ordinary, probably a big anaconda, right? But then the camera zooms out and you start to realize just how massive this thing really is. Some people say it could be a modern-day titanoboa, a prehistoric snake that was said to grow over 40 feet long. Supposedly extinct for millions of years, but who really knows with a place like the Amazon? It's one of the most unexplored regions on Earth. If a monster-sized snake was going to survive anywhere without being found, this is definitely the place. Now, sure, this could be a trick of the camera. Maybe the angle makes the snake look bigger than it is, but when you see something that looks like it came straight out of the Jurassic period, moving that smoothly through a real jungle river, it's hard not to wonder what else might be out there. Sometimes it feels like we've just barely scratched the surface. How would you like to see this thing creeping through your backyard? In this video shared by TikTok user Cryptalker, a weird pale creature is caught crawling through someone's backyard in the middle of the night. It's moving on all fours and it looks way too thin to be a normal person. Its limbs are long and kind of jerky, and there's something really off about how it moves. A lot of people instantly compared it to the Rake, the creepy internet legend that's been floating around since the early 2000s, and this thing definitely has a similar vibe. The creature in the video doesn't really do much, just crawling along, but man, does it give me the creeps. Looks like it shouldn't exist. Too thin and lanky to be a person, but unlike any animal I've ever seen. Back in 2012, a trail cam on Whiteman Hill in Wetzel County, West Virginia picked up something very strange. A woman named Kelly Morgan submitted photos from her brother's deer camera that seemed to show a pale ghost-like figure wandering through the woods at night. According to Morgan, there's an old local legend about a young bride who was killed on her wedding day and that her spirit is said to roam the woods. She said her aunt told her the story, but it's mostly passed around as hearsay. Still, digging into the area's ghost tales, Morgan found a disturbing version of the story. Around 1882, 3 men allegedly took a young girl to a remote spot near Whiteman Hill, and after tormenting her, they hanged her. There is a small cemetery nearby that some think might be connected as well. The idea of a ghost bride fits into a much bigger pattern in folklore. Susan Dahl, co-author of Haunted Tales from the Holler, hadn't heard this exact story, but she did note how common ghost bride tales are, saying they are so common you could call them a bona fide subcategory.
Next we have the sea serpent, not something you really want to see on a day out in the water, or maybe you do, as mythologically speaking, serpents were said to be representative of creative life force as well as fertility. Along with that, the fabled shedding of the oceanic reptile skin has been said to represent transformation, rebirth, and immortality. So how does all this talk of omens and myths translate to reality? The titanoboa, a 47-foot long aquatic snake estimated to have lived 58 to 60 million years ago, discovered, fossilized of course, in the early 2000s by the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute in a coal mine deep within the rainforests of Colombia. Now, because the titanoboa is now extinct, I'll give you a 2 for 1. Today, scientists believe that the creature many sailors mistakenly mistook for a sea serpent is none other than the oarfish. As I mentioned in my previous video, that thing can grow up to be 36 feet long, making it the largest bony fish alive today. No 47-foot long prehistoric sea snake, but it is pretty close. This next one is for all of my Game of Thrones fans out there who, I'm pretty sure like me, will be very happy to learn that no, not dragons, guys, I'm a researcher, not a miracle worker, but like I said, direwolves actually do exist. Well, did exist. Like I said, I'm no miracle worker. Epicyon haydeni, as they are scientifically referred to, went extinct around 5 million years ago, so we just missed them. But our human ancestors might have lived amongst them, as our earliest record of human life does date back to sometime between 5 and 7 million years ago. The massive canid would have stood 35 inches, about 3 feet tall at the shoulder, and had a length of just 1.2 inches shy of 8 feet long. The largest canine alive today, and therefore the closest depiction we have to the direwolf, is the gray wolf, which comes in at an honestly just slightly less impressive shoulder height of 30 inches and body length of 6 feet. Next up is the Kraken. Like mermaids, I guarantee you've heard of this one before, but if not, here it goes. A gigantic, legendary sea monster and another yet major enemy of our seafaring sailor friends, the Kraken has been known to sink ships in minutes with its gigantic squid-like tentacles and beak. Well, not so much squid-like as squid exactly. Thought to be nothing more than a myth up until 1856, when the discovery of the giant squid took place in 1856, when a Danish zoologist uncovered records of Danish men having caught the creature all the way back in 1550. The largest giant squid, also known as the chief squid, discovered to date is an insane 13 meters long, that's almost 43 feet, and weighs 495 kilograms, which is 1,091 pounds. So while the animal probably wouldn't have been able to sink gigantic fleets of Voyager ships as the legends tell, I'm guessing it wouldn't have much trouble taking down a rowboat or two. Guys, I hate to do this to you because I so wanted it to be true that an inconceivably large shark species was roaming around the deep to one day be discovered by marine scientists and research experts, but the thing is, the megalodon just isn't that big. I mean, it's huge, but also some reports have suggested that it's literally the same size as a whale shark, and actually a bit smaller, as the largest whale shark apparently measured up to 18.5 meters, 60 feet, whereas the megalodon was said to have measured in at just 18 meters, 59 feet. But I get it, you're looking for a giant carnivorous shark, so let me give you this. An even bigger shark, I'm talking about a mega-sized megalodon, possibly measuring in at more than 30 meters or 100 feet, might have existed at some point. You see, before humans began spreading out across the globe, there was something called megafauna, which basically just refers to really large animals, some examples being the dire wolf, mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and woolly rhinoceroses. When humans began to encroach on the lands of these animals, it is predicted that there was not enough resources to support both them and our Homo sapien ancestors. And because they were much larger than us, and therefore most likely had longer gestation periods and required more food and land, as we said hello to the agricultural revolution, we unfortunately waved goodbye to the majority of the world's megafauna on land. And when the fishing industry began to pick up, aquatic megafauna began to die off as well, most likely including the megalodon. But who knows? Again, only 5% of the ocean has been explored to date. Alright guys, before we get into the last one, please let me know the weirdest creature that you've ever seen down below in the comments. Lastly, we have the chimera, a creature often referred to in Greek mythology as an amalgamation of many different animals fused together. And this thing is so cool to look at. The creature was discovered in the 1980s in the Karoo region of South Africa, and it's still around today, but the earliest fossil found so far dates all the way back to around 280 million years ago. But it is said that the species first came to be after diverging from their shark relatives almost 400 million years ago. Due to their ghostly appearance and their close relation to sharks via their prehistoric shark ancestors, this species has been appropriately nicknamed the ghost shark. Straightforward. I like it. The ghost shark can be found in pretty much all oceans except for the Arctic at a depth of about 2,600 to 8,500 feet. They weigh generally between 5.5 to 8.8 pounds and are a cartilage-based animal. They have one gill on either side of their bodies and have an upper jaw fused to their skull. Think about taking a swim with one of these as you fall asleep tonight.
So this guy caught something really spooky on camera while motorbiking. TikToker Moat Owens was riding through a forest trail as the sun was setting. He was pretty deep into the trail, which he said seemed to go on forever. And he comes to a fork in the path. Then he notices something strange. It's eerily quiet.
Holy crap, dude, this trail going on forever.
He sits there for a few moments, trying to decide which path to take, before he spots something poking out of the brush. Take a look at this. As soon as he sees the thing, he rightly zips back in the direction he came from, but not before struggling to get his bike started like he's stuck in a monster movie or one of those awful nightmares where you're being chased only to find that you've lost the ability to run. Pretty awful. A man named Jose in Fresno, California had a security camera outside his home, mainly to keep an eye on people messing with his front lawn. Well, one night his dog started barking like crazy, so he went to check the camera footage, and what he saw completely threw him. It was a thin, pale white figure with long legs gliding across the lawn. It had no arms, no real body, it was just the two long, tube-like legs and something small connecting them at the top. It didn't move like a person or an animal, mainly because it didn't look like a person or an animal. Jose was freaked out and immediately woke up his brother. According to Jose, his brother went outside and found weird little footprints in the dirt. But when investigators finally got there, it had rained and whatever physical evidence was there was now gone. This was the first ever footage of what's been referred to as the Fresno Nightcrawler, or crawlers, because some folks have seen multiple of them at once. In July of 2022, a home security camera in Moorhead, Kentucky picked up something really weird. Something that looked like a pale, almost human-shaped figure moving through someone's backyard late at night. The creature was thin, with long arms and legs, and no visible clothes or fur. It didn't run or walk like a person, it just kind of crept through the yard in this slow, eerie motion. The homeowner released the clip online, and it was shared around everywhere, even news sites. A lot of people said it looked like some kind of rake. Others say this one has a bit of an alien vibe to it. The video was picked up by local news, including the Tribune, which simply labeled it as a bizarre backyard sighting. Nobody came forward with any clear explanation, and wildlife officials didn't release any statements about what it could have been. Internet theories went all over the place with this one, from a deformed deer walking upright, which is a bit of a stretch, to a sick person wandering around naked. That's much more plausible. Or maybe something straight out of The Descent. In October of 2023, two passengers were riding the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad, a scenic train that runs through the Colorado wilderness, when one of them spotted something strange walking along a hillside. They pulled out their phone and started recording. What they caught was this figure walking upright across the slope. It wasn't a person in hiking gear. It was tall, bulky, covered in what looked like brown fur, turning at one point to look back toward the train. Some commenters pointed out that the remote location made this very unlikely that anyone would be out there pulling a prank. Others just said, well, it kind of just does look like a costume. But the video made national news and reopened the Bigfoot debate once again. A lot of folks also pointed out how well this thing moved on such steep terrain. For believers, this is one of the better modern Bigfoot sightings. Clear daylight, open view, but like always, what do you all think? In 2019, near Sioux Lookout in Ontario, Canada, Gino Mikas, an experienced hunter, was with his wife and grandson grouse hunting when they heard this eerie howl coming from deep in the trees. Take a listen to this. Now, thinking it might be a moose, Mikas started recording with his phone, but as the howls continued, and they do go on throughout the entire clip, it growing louder and more aggressive, it was very clear that this wasn't anything he'd heard before. Now, keep this in mind, guys. He's been hunting all his life, and he said the sound didn't match anything native to the area. Could this be a legit recording of Bigfoot?
Number 5. The Stymph alien birds. The Stymph alien birds are a group of insatiable birds in Greek mythology. One of Hercules' labors was to kill the Stymph alien birds. Oh, and did I mention they were also man-eating birds with a particular habit of throwing poop? They sound great. Truly. The Greeks liked to scare people with these killer bird tales, but the Maori tribe of New Zealand told similar legends of the pukai or hoki, I hope I said that right, a giant black and white bird that swooped down from the sky to pick off people. Terrifying as this sounds, they were real birds, except they were called Haast eagle. They are an extinct species of eagle that once lived in the South Island of New Zealand. It was the largest eagle known to have existed, with an estimated weight of 33 pounds. The bird stood over 6 feet tall and had a wingspan of over 8 feet. The Haast eagle would sit atop of trees and then ambush its prey by swooping down at 60 miles per hour speeds. Then it would disembowel its meal with sharp talons. Hercules could never have survived these hell birds, but you could, as they became extinct around the 1400s. Number 4. Vampire deer. Vampire deer. Just the name makes you think that they are deers that suck blood of animals and humans, but fortunately, or unfortunately, that's not what they do. Yes, vampire deer are a real animal, but do they not drink blood? Well, why is it called vampire deer? Well, it has fangs. Yes, fangs. Its other name is water deer. They are native to Korea and China, but have spread after first being imported to Great Britain in the 1870s to France, Argentina, England, and parts of the United States. From a distance, they look a lot like regular deer, but as you get closer, you can see that they have fangs. They have developed long canine teeth which protrude from the upper jaw. The teeth usually erupt in the autumn of the deer's first year at approximately 6 to 7 months of age. By early spring, the recently erupted tusks reach approximately 50% of their final length, and as the tusks develop, the root remains open until the deer is about 18 months to 2 years old. When fully grown, only about 60% of the tusk is visible below the gum. Now, despite listings of vulnerable by the International Union for Conservation of Nature in South Korea, the animal is thriving due to the extinction of natural predators such as Korean tigers and leopards. Since 1994, Korean water deer have been designated as harmful wildlife, a term given by the Ministry of Environment to wild creatures that can cause harm to humans or their property. Number 3. Emogi. Emogi are Korean dragons, which resemble all forms of Chinese dragons. They are often depicted as long, snake-like reptiles with 4 legs. Unlike European dragons, emogi do not have wings and are considered benevolent creatures related to water and agriculture. While there's no such creature in fossil record, there is something similar called the Titanoboa. Titanoboa was the largest snake to ever slither across the ground, and various specimens have been found indicating that they could grow up to 42 feet in length and weigh as much as 2,500 pounds. That sounds terrifying. They existed around 60 to 58 million years ago, following the extinction of all non-avian dinosaurs. Though originally thought to be an apex predator, the discovery of skull bones revealed that it was more likely to specialize in preying on fish. I would not want to run into one of these. Number 2. Sea serpent. A sea serpent or a sea dragon is a type of dragon sea monster described in various mythology. It was said to be 200 feet to 400 feet long and 20 feet wide. The sea serpent is another ferocious creature believed to roam around the ocean. This creature, as you may have guessed by its name, is supposedly a monstrous fish-snake hybrid. Stories of this make me never want to go into the ocean again. Now, like the Kraken, the sea serpent really exists, even though its features and stories are heavily exaggerated. The sea serpent is actually an oarfish, which really looks like a fish-snake hybrid. An oarfish is a huge, greatly elongated fish. The giant oarfish is the longest bony fish alive, growing up to 36 feet in length. It's found in areas spanning of the temperate ocean zones to tropical ones. Unfortunately, we know a little about the oarfish because it lives deep underwater and it's rarely seen. However, we know it neither feeds on humans nor fishes, but on small marine creatures like crustaceans and krill. It was officially discovered in 1772, centuries after the legend it inspired first appeared. These still sound terrifying to me, so I'm glad they're rarely seen and stay deep in the ocean. And coming in at number 1 is unicorn. The unicorn is a legendary creature that has been described as a horse with a single large pointed spiraling horn projecting from its forehead. They're portrayed as being magical and beautiful and have become a popular figure that children love. Personally, I've always wanted to meet a unicorn. So, are unicorns real? Yes, but they're not what you imagine. They were not horses, but rhinoceroses. That is, if the extinct Siberian unicorn is really the origin of the unicorn myth. Like the unicorn, the Siberian unicorn walked on 4 legs and had a huge horn in the middle of its head. However, unlike the unicorn, the rhino was bigger, stronger, and probably just as mean as all rhinoceroses are. For perspective, it weighed 4 tons. The Siberian unicorn lived in Eurasia until it went extinct around 39,000 years ago. Fortunately for the humans that were around at the time, it was a herbivore that preferred munching down on shrubs. Now, this is not as magical as I would have thought.
First, because we've got to get this one out of the way early, you either love them or hate them, are so sick of hearing about them, or literally can't get enough. Half of you are gonna roast me in the comments for even mentioning them, and the other half would have been pissed if I didn't bring them up. So, did you guess mermaids? Okay, good, because it was obvious. Mermaids are probably the most popular mythical creatures to date, with origin stories coming from just about every corner of the globe. And just in case you've been living under an actual boulder, mermaids are humanoid mammal fish that generally come with the top half of a beautiful woman and the bottom half of some kind of mix between dolphins and marlin. Also known as sirens and said to be quite the charmers with a nice set of pipes, as thousands of stories exist about the creatures luring sailors to their watery death with nothing more than their beauty and a song. I guess beauty really is in the eye of the drunken sailor, because it appears as though what was once thought to be a creature of ultimate fantasy is actually just a manatee, or dugong, also referred to as a sea cow. So, myth busted? Well, the thing is, manatees are generally only found in waters of about 3 to 7 feet deep, maximum 10 to 17, which kind of begs the question, are we really sure that a dugong is all the sailors saw out on the rolling deep sea in the dead of night? Well, I'll put it to you this way. To date, only 5% of the ocean has been explored, so we never really know. Next up, we have the Lernaean Hydra, a creature that finds its origins based in Greek mythology. The Hydra is said to have been birthed by the mother and father of monsters, and to have 3 to 7 heads, toxic breath and blood, as well as regenerative and immortal properties. Hercules was the one to defeat the creature in a daring battle in which he cut off the monsters' heads only to watch in horror as they grew back stronger. Eventually, however, Hercules realized that by cauterizing the point of breakage between neck and head, he no longer had this problem. As Hercules came closer to victory, the mother of the beast, fearful for its demise, sent a giant crab down to the river in which the snake-like creature lived in order to assist it in the battle. But success was not given to the monsters that day, as they both perished in the fight. A 3-headed corn snake, appropriately named none other than Hydra, is our modern-day version of the giant reptilian creature. The 3 heads are due to a phenomenon referred to as polycephaly that creates mutations within the animals. What do you think? So, you know the giant crab I mentioned like just a minute ago? Well, yeah, that's actually real too. Surprise! This mythical creature comes to us in the form of a Japanese spider crab. These monsters that come from the deep sea are massive, with a possible leg span of up to 13 feet across and a diet that consists of dead or decaying fish. So basically corpses. Not only that, but the creatures are said to be immortal, as they are thought to live for over 100 years and also have the ability to regenerate their limbs. Another fun fact, when the giant crab reaches adulthood, its center body stops growing, but just like human ears and noses, its legs will continue to grow throughout its lifespan. Oh, and females of the species can also lay up to 1.5 million eggs within a single birthing season. So, yeah. Super cool. Next on the list, we have the Ningen, a staple of mid-2000s Japanese folklore. This aquatic whale-like humanoid is said to roam throughout the icy waters of the Antarctic region. The creature was reportedly first sighted by both Japanese fishing and research vessels, claiming to have seen the human-like figures within the waters beneath their boats. The Ningen, which means human in Japanese, is said to be somewhere between 60 and 90 feet long, meaning it's ginormous, and many people people believe the animal's existence is being covered up by the government because of the fact that the original video said to have captured the Ningen has since been wiped from all corners of the internet. However, it appears that 3 photographs do still remain available for our viewing pleasure. One, taken from a remote-operated camera that depicts the creature in a greenish glow, another from an aerial view showing off its massive size, and one more captured through ROV, remote-operated vehicle footage, depicting the creature floating eerily in the dark of the deep sea. At our halfway point, we have the jackalope. Believe it or not, the horned rabbit is in fact real, and also way creepier than we thought. The legend of the jackalope found its origins in North American folklore, described as a jackrabbit with the horns of an antelope. While some cultures view the animal as an omen of bad luck, others view it as a sign of good fortune. In reality, it's actually neither. I mean, it's kind of bad luck for the rabbit, as the occurrence of the horns, which look more like random spikes than antelope antlers, is due to a disease called Shope virus, which originally appeared in cottontails, not jackrabbits, and is closely related to the HPV virus. However, the Shope strain is non-transmittable from animals to humans. The disease, which causes hard, dark warts to grow on the face of cottontails, has now also been found within bush rabbits, black-tailed jackrabbits, snowshoe hares, European rabbits, and even domestic ones too.
This has become a pretty famous image. Right up there with the infamous Nessie photograph, this is supposedly photographic evidence of a creature called Champ that lives in Lake Champlain. There have been over 300 reported sightings of the creature over the years, but in 1977, amateur photographer Sandra Mansi spotted something sticking its head out of the water and snapped the now famous photo. Some describe Champ or Champy as a snake-like creature, others say it's like an aquatic dinosaur, something like a plesiosaur. Champ has become a full-on local celebrity though. In Port Henry, New York, they built a giant statue of it. There's even a Champ Day festival every year. Businesses in the area, car washes, diners, gift shops, slap Champ on their logos, and Vermont's minor league baseball team is literally called the Lake Monsters, with Champ as the mascot. It's a modern day mythical creature, and people keep watching the lake, hoping to be the next to spot it. This next video comes out of Puerto Rico, captured on a hotel security camera. Take a look at this. That was kinda nuts. Definitely not a gust of wind. Something very clearly tugged at her hair. We just can't see what it was. Now, this hotel was built over one that had burnt down in 1986, and it's become kinda infamous for its paranormal activity. Guests and staff will say they hear disembodied voices and footsteps, or see weird shadows moving about, the usual ghostly flair. But this isn't just spooky, it's rude and incredibly annoying. Whoever this ghost is, they deserved to die in that fire, if that's how they go around behaving. This next photo comes from Reddit user Dan_Cukes, who writes, "My brothers and I went hammock backpacking in Pennsylvania last weekend. I was going through photos from the trip and started editing this one for an Instagram post. Wasn't long until I realized there was this incredibly human-like apparition / figure behind the campfire smoke just watching us. We never saw anything the whole day and night we were there, and we were 5 miles or so deep in the woods with no one around. It was a mile or so away from a small overgrown trail, so we were confident we'd be left alone. We don't know what to think of this and are pretty shook up over it." This eerie image was posted online by Reddit user Druzy. Looking closely, you can see a pale face with its mouth wide open, peering out the bottom of the window. Now, on its own, the image isn't all that amazing, but if the story attached to it is to be believed, it definitely makes for a creepy post. Druzy wrote, "I took this picture sometime in 2013. We'd always experienced things in this apartment. Footsteps, doors closing, lights on and off, blinds always falling off the window, but we never actually saw anything. I was on my way to work one day when I noticed the blinds in my room pressed against the window as if someone was spreading them apart. I snapped a picture to show my mom later, like, hey, look, the blinds were weird, like someone was pressing against them. Never been able to explain the face in the window though. There was nobody home except for my dog. This is a photograph of a beastly animal that was burnt alive by this group of brave men, the Hodag. This story comes out of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, a small town in the north of the state. It all started back in the 1890s when a local timber cruiser named Eugene Shepard came out saying that he'd come across this terrifying creature in the woods. According to his description, it had, quote, the head of a frog, the grinning face of a giant elephant, thick short legs set off by huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a long tail with spears at the end. Shepard claimed they had to use dynamite just to kill the beast. He'd even released a photo of the charred remains, calling it the, quote, fiercest, strangest, most frightening monster ever to set razor-sharp claws on the earth. In 1896, Shepard said that he captured another Hodag alive with help from a few bear wrestlers and a chloroform-soaked pole. He showed the thing off at the Oneida County Fair and at his own home, where he'd rigged it to move using wires just to scare people for fun. Yeah, the whole thing was a hoax. Shepard was kind of known as the town prankster, and the fun ended when scientists from the Smithsonian said they were coming to investigate. At that point, Shepard finally admitted he'd made the whole thing up. But by then, the Hodag had already become a local legend. I just had to include this one. It was just too fun a story. So this farmer in India walked out onto his property to see this massive snake that had just finished swallowing one of his cows. Look at the giant bulge right in the middle of the snake's body. Instead of running away, the farmer actually grabbed a rope and lassoed the snake, just threw it right over the middle of his body like he was wrangling a steer. I don't know what kind of nerves that guy has, but if I were in his boots, I'd have quit farming on the spot. I would be halfway across the country before even thinking about coming back. The clip's been shared around a lot online, and people are still debating what kind of snake this was. Some say it might have been a green anaconda, which do get very big. Others think it was something even bigger though, maybe something not officially documented. Certainly looks like it to me, but thankfully I do not live in a country where there are massive poisonous snakes stalking the forests, so I'm not too familiar. But with all that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.
Number 10. Kraken. The Kraken is a legendary sea monster of enormous size said to appear off the coast of Norway. According to sailors, it is a huge octopus-like creature with a fondness for sinking ships and eating its crew. Aw, what a nice guy. Legend says that the Kraken attacked and sank ships with its strong arms. If it was unsuccessful, it started swimming in circles until it created a whirlpool that sank the ship. Now, the Kraken is a real animal, but it's actually a giant squid, which is huge, but considerably smaller and less violent than the sailors claimed. The Kraken moved from folklore to reality when the remains of a giant squid was found on the shore in Denmark in 1853. The giant squid is as elusive as the legend it inspired. It lives so deep underwater that we have limited information about it. However, we know it has the largest eyes of all living creatures, grows up to 18 meters, and is frequently hunted by sperm whales for food. The weaker giant squid generally flees when confronted by a whale. However, it sometimes fights back when cornered, and it is not unusual to find sperm whales with scars left from their battles with giant squids. So yes, the Kraken is real, just not as scary. Number 9. El Chupacabra. We're taught from an early age, don't approach scary looking dogs or any stray animal, and you definitely don't want to mess with this beast. The Chupacabra was first sighted in Puerto Rico in the 70s. A wave of sightings followed in the late 1990s, and during this time, livestock throughout Puerto Rico was found drained of blood. These chuparaca or goat sucker attacks caused panic among local residents who claimed a vampire was feeding on their livestock. Although descriptions have varied, most described a hairless, alien-like monster with spikes going down its back and glowing red eyes. That sounds absolutely terrifying, but how could so many people capture pictures of the same ugly dog-like creature? The answer may be found in science, as El Chupacabra, but one plausible theory is that these creatures are actually coyotes suffering from sarcopic mange, an inflammatory skin condition caused by the itch-inducing parasitic mite scabies. Wolf, dogs, and coyotes infected with scabies will have extreme hair loss, skin shriveling, and constricted blood vessels that can lead to life-threatening fatigue. This matched up with the description of El Chupacabra, and while usually a coyote or wolf will have no problems hunting prey, once infected with scabies, coyotes may choose to hunt more available meals such as livestock. So there you have it. Number 8. Griffin. The griffin is a hybrid mythical creature. According to myth, they have the faces, wings, and front legs of an eagle, and the rear, tail, and hind legs of a lion. Oh, and they flew too. Talking of existence, griffins really existed, but that was before the first humans appeared. They were actually a kind of dinosaur called the Protoceratops that existed around 75 to 71 million years ago. Like the griffin, the Protoceratops walked on 4 legs and had a beak, but did not have wings. At a time when people had little knowledge of dinosaurs and only birds were believed to have beaks, it's no surprise that people claimed it had wings. I mean, whatever had a beak should have a wing, shouldn't it? And to be fair, the creature had long shoulder blades that could easily be mistaken for wings. Protoceratops were up to 6.6 to 8.2 feet long and around 137 to 229 pounds. They were characterized by a proportionately large skull, short and stiff neck, and neck frill. The frill was likely used for display or intraspecific combat, as well as protection of the neck and anchoring of jaw muscles. A horn-like structure was present over the nose, which varied from a single structure into a double. So not a griffin, just a dinosaur. Number 7. Direwolves. In games like Dungeons & Dragons or television series such as Game of Thrones, direwolves have been depicted as gigantic wolves capable of easily taking down a large man. They are often described as vicious, hard to train, and efficient killers. But the myth of the direwolf doesn't exactly line up with reality. Direwolves were real animals which went extinct around 9,500 years ago when the last major ice age came to an end. Direwolves weren't gigantic monsters, but they were big animals. Most specimens that have been studied showed the direwolf to be about the same size as a modern gray wolf. They weighed around 132 pounds and were capable predators. Their teeth were larger and had a better shearing ability than their modern cousins. They had a strong bite force at the point of canine to all Canis species. This made it possible for them to prey on horses, camels, bison, and humans living during the Ice Age. Number 6. Gorilla. Some of you may not have heard of this animal, but let me explain. Sometime between the 5th and 6th centuries BC, an explorer from ancient Carthage called Hanno the Navigator discovered a tribe of hairy and rude people while navigating the coast of West Africa. In his reports, Hanno wrote that the tribe had more males than females, who he referred to as hairy women and called gorilla. Hanno's party chased the tribe, but they all fled. The males were considerably faster and quickly climbed the cliffs, where they threw stones at his team. The females were slower, and his team managed to capture 3. However, they fought back aggressively, forcing Hanno and his men to kill and skin them. He took their skins back to Carthage. The creature became folklore since no Westerner had seen them again until an American missionary called T.S. Savage rediscovered them in 1847. They were not humans, but apes. Or to be more precise, they were apes we now call gorillas. Savage named the new creatures troglodytes, gorilla, in keeping with Hanno's gorillae. To be clear, there is some debate whether Hanno saw gorillas or some other species of apes. Nonetheless, Savage's troglodytes gorilla was later named gorilla, while the animal itself was called gorilla.
2 friends were hiking in British Columbia when they captured something they couldn't quite explain. They spotted this figure walking upright across a snowy ridge. It's distant, but the people behind the camera say they had a much clearer view in person, and what they saw didn't make any sense. See, the terrain was tough, deep snow, steep drop-offs, no obvious trail, but the figure was moving so smoothly and quickly, without snowshoes, without a backpack, and seemingly wearing all one color. Now, anyone who has ever tried to walk through that kind of snow knows that it's nearly impossible without gear. They said the thing was bipedal, fast, and didn't look like a bear. They admitted the most logical explanation might be it was just some lone, seriously hardcore hiker, but what if that wasn't the case? The closest route down the mountain was a 300-meter sheer drop, and they didn't have climbing gear to follow it. So whether it was a Sasquatch, a fearless snow hiker, or something else, it left them unsettled enough to post online, and a number of people have commented about how much distance this thing manages to cover on such harsh terrain in such a short span of time. Known locally as the Lagerflot worm, this creature is Iceland's answer to the Loch Ness Monster, said to live in the icy depths of Lake Lagerflot. The beast is described as massive, up to 40 feet long, and not sleek like your typical idea of a sea serpent. Instead, it's said to have a series of large, visible humps. Reports of the creature go all the way back to 1345, and sightings have trickled in over the centuries. In 1963, the head of Iceland's National Forest Service claimed that he saw it with his own eyes. In 1998, a teacher and a group of students said they saw it as well. The most interesting incident might have happened in 1983 when a group of workers were laying a telephone cable near the eastern shore of the lake, and during their depth measurements, they detected this massive moving object deep beneath the surface. When they later retrieved the cable, it was snapped, and right at the spot where it had rested on whatever that thing was. Then in 2012, the story blew up again when a 67-year-old farmer recorded this video of something snake-like twisting and swimming in a river which flows directly into the lake. Next up is this clip here, the Harley Hoffman Bigfoot footage. I remember seeing this clip years ago. It was edited into an interview with Hoffman himself, who's a well-known Bigfoot enthusiast. Now, for a while I couldn't find the footage again, but recently it did pop back up. This is actual footage he claims to have shot, and honestly, it is pretty solid. You get a decent look at the creature. It doesn't come across like some dude stumbling around in a Party City gorilla suit. There's what looks like actual muscle definition under the fur, kind of like what you see in the famous Patterson-Gimlin footage. Now, yeah, the camera is a little shaky, but I mean, come on, if you suddenly ran into this thing in the woods, are you really gonna whip out this perfect, smooth, Kubrick-style tracking shot? I doubt it. The shakiness actually makes it feel more real, like something someone would capture in the middle of a, legit what the hell am I looking at moment. Now let's talk about the 1992 Grassman sighting. Grassman is the name Ohio locals have given to this big ape-like creature that's supposedly been spotted all over the state. This particular video was taken in eastern Ohio by a guy named Don Keating, who managed to capture what looked like a large hairy figure walking into the forest. The footage is of course super grainy, and he's pretty far away, so no, it's not crystal clear or anything, but there's definitely something moving through the trees. It's not the strongest video evidence out there. It's hard to tell exactly what you're looking at, but this video was passed around a lot back then, and there was a ton of debate surrounding it. That always makes things interesting. Plus, I just have a fondness for old VHS footage like this. It's just got this creepy, it adds something to it, I don't know. Now, what's interesting is that Keating said he was a skeptic before shooting this, but after the encounter, he changed his tune. And finally, we've got the Salt Fork Creature, another supposed clip of the Ohio Grassman. This video was uploaded to the YouTube channel We Do It Outdoors, and even though it's only about 10 minutes long, it is packed with material. So two guys were exploring Salt Fork State Park, also in eastern Ohio, when they started hearing weird noises, and that's when they caught footage of something big and hairy moving around in the trees. They follow this thing for a while and get some pretty cool footage, more than you usually get with videos like this. Now, if this is a costume, it's a pretty good one. The creature looks bulky. It's not like one of those flimsy, off-the-shelf gorilla suits, and what really makes this one stand out is that the footage is clear. There's no camera shaking, or very little. There's no ridiculous filter to make it harder to see what's going on. You even hear some strange vocalizations in the background, which just adds to the whole thing. Whether it's real or not, this one is definitely worth a watch.